Are you ready for National Black Girl Month? April is National Black Girl Month, and this year, we're centering Black motherhood. National Black Girl Month is a call to celebrate, invest, and champion Black women and girls. Join the movement and spread the spark. Visit nationalblackgirlmonth.com. Welcome to Impact Innovators with Felicia Ford, where we dive into the strategies that empower changemaker brands to leave a lasting legacy. Think of this podcast as your audio playbook for meaningful action. What's possible when thought leaders, disruptors, and pioneers align to share their journeys? I'm Felicia Ford, your host, bringing together the brightest minds and the most groundbreaking ideas to help you drive change, navigate through the sticky stuff, and elevate your brand. Whether you're tackling funding hurdles, looking for growth strategies, or seeking the perfect balance between profit and purpose, we've got you covered. Stay tuned and be a part of a movement that's setting new benchmarks in how we think about progress, community, and doing. Let's innovate, impact, and inspire. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I have with me today Dr. Rikesha Fry Brown, and this is National Black Girl Month 2025. Movements don't start in meetings. They start with lived experiences. And in moments, we recognize them, the gaps, the unspoken truths, and we've decided that we won't let them stay that way. That's how National Black Girl Month was born. That's how we wrote Silent Dangers of Black Girls in Education, not as an abstract concept, but as a direct response to what we saw happening to Black girls in classrooms, in systems, in the world. And we'll be coming back to you with the silent dangers of Black women in the workplace. But at the heart of National Black Girl Month is a simple but profound truth. Black girls, Black women deserve to be seen, protected, uplifted, celebrated everywhere, including the very systems that shape our lives. That's why we wrote Silent Dangers of Black Girls in Education. That's why we built this moment, because visibility isn't enough. Change requires structure, it requires strategy, it requires intention and action. And that's what we're here to talk about with you today. We're talking about the work, because if we don't name the dangers, how do we ever dismantle them? And with Dr. Rikesha Fry Brown by my side, we're sitting down to revisit our journey, to deepen the conversation. And before we explore what that means for the guests that you will hear from over the next 5 weeks, we need to unpack what that meant for us as daughters, as leaders, as women, and as mothers. Now, I want to introduce to you again my friend, Dr. Rikesha Fry Brown. She is a psychologist, educator, advocate, a mother who has spent her career ensuring Black students, especially Black girls, aren't just present in academic spaces, but fully supported and prepared to thrive. Her work spans classrooms, higher education, continents, and policy. And today, she's shaping the next generation of Black scholars and leaders.
And you know Felicia Ford as the strategist behind brands and partnerships that are changing industries. She built the Felicia Ford and Company and a house of brands into a powerhouse, creating platforms that spark conversations and move them into action. If you've been following this work, you know she doesn't just talk about ideas. She executes them at the highest level. Before this became a national conversation, it started as a collaboration. This collaboration was rooted in research, advocacy, and the belief that transformation is not only necessary, but possible. This year, National Black Girl Month is all about motherhood, but not just motherhood in its traditional sense. It's about how we are nurtured, how we learn to nurture others, and how our experiences as daughters, leaders, and protectors shape the way we move through and experience this world. And before we dive into this incredible conversation, this episode is our chance to set the foundation. Let's talk about what led us here.
And how has our work evolved? Rikesha, last year, we gave the people a glimpse into how National Black Girl Month came together, but I don't think we really dug into the root of it with Silent Dangers. We talked a little bit about here's your work, here's my work. And, we had these meetings and there was, ideas started applying. But even before that, I would say there was a direct connection with us as friends, as respecting each other as Black women in this space. And I was preparing for this episode and I was in prayer and I just thought about Genesis 1 and 1. My aunt who helped nurture me as a person, a young person growing up. She used to read Genesis 1 every morning before taking us to school. It is ingrained in my soul. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Our motto is spread the spark. Before this movement, there was this moment when we said, we've got to do something about this. You had long since had your PhD and done your research and your work, and I was pulling up the rear, just had finished my fellowship. But it opened my eyes to so many things that I hadn't personally experienced as a Black girl growing up, but seeing things in the school systems, even in college, I met someone who was fight the power and the revolution is going to be televised. And I didn't understand her passion and her pressing of this because it wasn't my lived experience until I was an adult. So when you think back to these early conversations we had about this, what do you think were the moments that made it clear that we needed to write?
I think just moving back to our very first conversation when we were first introduced to one another, the commonality for us in that moment was that we were both tired. We were exhausted. I was in the middle
Mhm.
of a transition, you were in the middle of a transition, and the weight of being a Black woman in the spaces that we enter and occupy and hold together was
Mhm.
so evident that it was like, I really want to connect with you, but I ain't got it.
Right.
Like, I can't do it. And so I think we scheduled our next meeting out for like 3 months. Like, let's just
Right.
give ourselves some time and come together. And I think one of the things that bound us when we first started talking about the work that we were doing, when we first finally got to meet, was the understanding that our tired started so long ago. And it
Mm.
wasn't just about the work that we were doing in that what in September of 22. It was about the lives that we had lived and the experiences that we had had that got us to those moments and how
Mhm.
hard we had to work to get through all of the things that we had been through. And so I think at the background, the undergirding push was like, we have so much in common and yet we've lived such different lives,
Right.
and we are not an anomaly
Right.
of the experiences of Black womanhood. We are a part of the fabric of Black womanhood, and what we're experiencing doesn't just start at adulthood career check boxes. It starts
Right.
before that. And so my work was on adult women and your work was on children. And it
Mhm.
was like, but it still parallels and there's still a thorough through that goes and tells a story. And it was just made sense to start with Silent Dangers of Girls in Education because that's where they spend their time. That is
Right.
the mandate of the land that children have to
Right.
go to school. And because they have to go to school, we know that they are having experiences in a space that they can't escape. And so we started there. And then it was like, okay, we know we have something to say about Black women and their experiences in the workspace. And when we finished Silent Dangers, we were like, this is good. We need to write again, but we need to do something to celebrate. And I
Right.
think what I love about us is that our celebration wasn't just to celebrate us, but to continue to celebrate the very people that we're trying to talk about
Right.
and publish information about and spread the real life stories about. And so we were like,
Mhm.
well, let's just celebrate Black girls,
Right.
and not girls in terms of children, but the hey girl, hey Black girl, that girl space of all of
Right.
Black womanhood. And so that's kind of how we got from Silent Dangers to National Black Girl Month, but they are birthed from the same space of the lived experience of a Black woman, understanding that we got to celebrate ourselves. I'm not going to wait for somebody else to
Exactly.
celebrate me. I'm going to celebrate myself, because if I don't, I'll be waiting forever while I'm still holding up the spaces that people are walking through and elevating in.
Whew. Ooh, ooh, ooh. You just said a word. And you know me, I'm all about celebrating.
No, I
I
love
would
a party.
celebrate that every single time. But I love reflecting on this because you were like 2022. I honestly couldn't remember what year it was. What year is today? But there's been so much that's transpired in the world that's racially charged, that is still, in some sense, placing the burden of fixing things on Black girls, Black women, placing the blame there. And so I'm reminded even daily why I'm excited to co create in this space with you. So
Thank
thank you, girl.
you. Same.
Thank you. Thank you. So when we say silent dangers, we're not just talking about statistics. Some people haven't yet accessed the download. It's a research article between Dr. Rikesha and I. We met for an hour a week. We talked. And then I personally have to say, Rikesha, doing the research for this, which is something that I didn't even think about when I was doing the research when I was a fellow, I didn't have time to think about it when I was a fellow. And I have to say that Harvard University did a great job of holding space for us to unpack the potential emotional effects of doing that research. It was all virtual because it was 2020. So it was in the middle of all the things. But during that experience, I didn't realize how much I would be angered at what I was going to find. And I didn't realize how, in some instances also, I was relieved to see it's not just me. I didn't do it. I didn't start it. It's been happening. And it just made me reflect on aunts, cousins, ancestors before us. Like you said, here we are, you focusing on adulthood, me focusing on children. And I just had this a little bit of a, oh my God, this is big. This is problematic. And I didn't want to ignore or even discredit any work that anyone else had done before us in this space. But that was why we said, here's National Black Girl Month, because yes, there's Black Girl Magic. Yes, there's Black Girls Run, and there's other groups focusing on specific activities. But there has not been, hey, Black girl, like you say, hey, Black girl. And you in your skin, in your body, in with your hair texture, just as you are, let's talk about you,
Mhm.
right? I've been in white spaces my entire life. I've gone to all PWIs, and let's just call a spade a spade. Every place that I've ever worked has been white dominated spaces, and DEI is going to be in the background of when this episode airs. So I don't know what will be the reality when people actually hear this episode. But for me, I've been through some spaces that didn't talk about inclusivity, didn't focus on diversity. But then I've also been in some places where diversity was prioritized and celebrated and all the things. So it's been a peppered experience. But when we talk about these silent dangers, what does that mean? And why is it critical for us to name that out loud?
So I think the interesting part for me about the DEI conversations is that for a lot of Black women, even the DEI thrust didn't change anything for them.
Right.
The rolling back of DEI won't change a lot for a lot of Black women. It will change for some of us. There are some of us, right? And there are some
Mhm.
spaces and some aspects, but by and large, the need and existence of Black women has been the undergirding, the undercurrent of this country since we got here. And so, whether you want to acknowledge us or not, we're here. And we
Mhm.
utilized our resources, strengths, and abilities from our beginning. And
Right.
so, like to say, well, we don't want blah, 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 merit based, all of those things, we are the merit. We still have given all of the things that you've been looking for and asking for, and people have utilized our abilities, our skills, our thoughts, our resources, our voices, our backs, our bodies from start to finish, from the top of our existence in this space, in this country, on this land. And so, because of that, I think that regardless of what they are doing, the celebration of Black women, the understanding the existence of Black women, we called it silent dangers, and it was silent in that moment. Right now, it's very loud that those
Oh,
dangers are still existent.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I,
Mhm.
I remember somebody asking, what do you mean by silent dangers? And even sometimes still, there's a little bit of shock for people when I say, visit silentdangers.com. They're like, silent dangers. Like, what is that? And I think about how I was talking to my therapist and I was explaining to her, and my therapist is an older white woman, but we have established this a relationship where I'm going to talk to you like I'm going to talk to you. And when I've encountered discriminatory experiences and I've processed that in therapy, I feel 1000% comfortable with it because I feel like therapy is a safe space. I don't care what you look like. And if you then show me that you can't handle what I am bringing to therapy, then I know it's time for me to find a new
Mhm.
therapist. But I was talking with her about some encounters that I've had with other people and their reaction to me being in their spaces,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? And I connected with her to say that, well, I've been doing this since I was a child. I've been doing this since I was at least in kindergarten. I remember when I realized I was Black. And there's been a TikTok video of a little white boy telling his mama he don't want to be white. He was in the bathroom trying to wash his white off. I don't know what that's about for him, but for me, I was admiring my mom's arm when I got home from school that day, and she was, "Little girl, what are you doing?" And I want to be your color. And she was, "What do you mean?" And my mother, I just in my 5-year-old brain am reflecting back on that memory, but I remember in kindergarten saying to my little white friends, I wanted to play or something, and I won't name her whole name, but I remember this girl to this day. She said, "You can't play with us because you're Black." And I was like, "I'm not Black," because I was like, the crayon
Black is
Black.
Black, right? Right.
I'm
Mhm.
not Black, and she held her arm up against mine and she brought Amber's arm up against mine and she was like, "You're Black, we're white." And she stomped off. And my teacher was a Black woman. And I don't remember if I said anything to her, but I definitely remember saying that to my mom. And so when people have this, oh, what is a silent? That's a silent danger because I hope that I would have gone to my teacher and said something to her, but I don't know if I did, Rikesha.
You took the words out of my mouth. I think when we talk about what a silent danger is, it's the microaggressions, it is the experiences that we don't talk about, the experiences that have been normalized or that we are so uncertain of what to do that we just
Yeah.
don't say anything to anyone about it. That
Mhm.
as women, we might not, as children, let's start there, we might not
Mhm.
even experience this experience as being about me being Black. I just experienced this as an experience that was hurtful or uncomfortable, and I don't know what to do about it. And
Right,
so, what do I say? Right.
right,
And so
right,
then we keep tucking those things away. So if you have an experience like that at 4 or 5 years old and you're not really sure what to say or don't say anything, and then you have an experience like that at 5 and then 6 and then 7 and you've never said anything, that is the silent danger. Why? Because it continues to just pick at you, pick at you, pick at you, pick at you. And those microaggressions get bigger and bigger because microaggressions is a misnomer. Microaggressions might be small or sound small, but they feel big to the people. It's big to
absolutely.
whoever is on the receiving end of it, right?
Mhm,
And so
mhm.
you continue to go through life with these microaggressions, with these experiences, these pickings at your existence, at your very being, at your place in spaces, everywhere you go, and someone just has another offhanded comment or another glance or another look or whatever, and it's not something that we speak about, that we talk
Right,
about. Who do we talk to about it? And then if you go to the wrong person and say this happened and they say, oh, that wasn't a big deal, she didn't mean anything by it, then you internalize that you are the one that's wrong.
Right.
And that
Mhm.
makes that danger even bigger, because the next time you're faced with something, will you have the courage, the strength, feel free enough to be able to address it, or do you just tuck it in? And so when we get to the fact of the matter is that it's become run of a mill for Black children to be mistreated in schools, and not physically, but emotionally,
Mhm.
psychologically, and academically. And that is not right. It is
At all.
unfair. It is not what we should be accepting, but we don't even know how to speak about it. We don't know how to address it, because the masses will say that we're overreacting. And so then we don't know what to do with our children,
Right.
how to help them, because we didn't know how to help ourselves. So when we
Right.
talk about those silent dangers, they're not silent. They are silent because we don't speak enough about them.
Mhm.
Right. And part of that goes, I can get on a tangent about stereotypes, but part of that goes back into that the angry Black woman stereotype, that if I address something, if I tell you I didn't like it, and then you switch it around and make it be, nah, 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 she got an attitude, da, 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 right? So then it's like,
Right.
well, I can't even tell you how I feel. I
Right.
can't even express to you that I didn't like something or felt uncomfortable about something, because you weaponize my emotions. That is a silent danger. It is the danger of being silent and being silenced. And that's what we're
Mm.
talking about when we talk about silent dangers.
Ooh, I'm remembering the paper. I can see it, right? I can see us going through the sections, and that statement you just made about it being silent and being silenced. We need to include that in the next paper because that's good. That is really
Trademark.
good. TM by Dr. Rikesha Fry Brown. But I didn't know the silent dangers of Black girls in education. I didn't know the history of juvenile justice, the juvenile justice system. I didn't know the history of public education. It just didn't dawn on me that schools were primarily for white male children to carry on the power and the wealth of their community. It makes sense considering where we are, right?
Mhm,
And what we're experiencing, right?
mhm,
But I've always seen school as a safe space. I love learning. I was that child in class who finished homework real fast so that when I got home, I could go outside and play. Or, here's the answer. I got it. My hand is raised real fast. I'm in the spelling bee. I'm doing all the extracurriculars. I felt betrayed
mhm.
personally. And then I felt guilty for the positive experiences that I did have in school, and seeing what in my research what happens to Black girls in some urban settings and being more likely than others to be disciplined, and then seeing that Black boys are disciplined far higher than Black girls for the same or less quote offenses
Mhm.
than their counterparts. And that hurt writing this paper. And it made me reflect back on the 12 years of work that I'd done in school systems before I got to the point of, okay, we got to do something else about this. And I mourned for those kids and those families. And I mourned for even the educators who are Black and in school systems that are up against the rules and the policies that are predicated on laws that have been in existence for hundreds of years that
Absolutely.
were written against us.
Absolutely. And I think so. Our similarities and differences. You've been in all PWI spaces. I have been in all Black spaces. I was raised in Colorado, and I left Colorado, which was, my high school was very diverse. My middle school was diverse. We lived in a diverse area, to the
Mhm.
extent that I never really felt like I didn't know any Black people, right? There were Black people
Right.
around, but I do remember in high school when I went to my AP and accelerated classes, I was often the only Black girl in those classes. And I would see my other friends in the hallways. And not that they weren't smart, they were,
Right.
but education was looked at and viewed differently, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so when I left Colorado, I went to an HBCU and I was like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. And so I've done all of my work at HBCUs and worked at HBCUs since that time. And I enjoy being in Black spaces around Black and brown people. And that's where I do my work. I think the interesting thing about Black girls who have positive experiences in school is that they do grow up to do this kind of work, because for every one of us who loved school and found school to be a safe space, there were five that didn't, and we
Right.
either weren't friends with them or didn't understand what was happening to
Mm-hmm.
them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I know women that I went to school with, and today I can look back and think about like what I saw and what that experience for her must have been like and why it was so different from what I was. Then they would have told us it was because I was smarter or she
Mm.
wasn't trying hard enough. And that
Right.
wasn't true, but that was the narrative. And when we own those narratives, that for whatever reason, we were othered to those in
Right.
those white spaces, that we were allowed to be the smart ones, right? But
Right.
only so
Right.
many were given that opportunity. And that is a real truth. It's a
Real
real
truth.
thing that happened, because I wasn't necessarily smarter than any of those other girls. Now,
Yeah.
I did have a different lived experience at home. I did have a different work ethic, perhaps all of those things. Who's to say that it wouldn't have been me from a different circumstance, or it wouldn't have been them in a different circumstance? But I can
Mm-hmm.
look back today on things that I experienced. I experienced a very strong racist moment when I was in fourth grade, and my mother activated. Like, I don't remember, I didn't go to any of the other meetings, but I know there were a lot of meetings and there was court involved and it was a whole thing that went down around it. My mother allowed me to be a child and I didn't have
Mm.
to
Wow.
experience all of the things that were happening, but I know
Right.
that it happened and everybody else knows that it happened, right?
Right. Right.
Um, but what about parents who don't have that ability, that opportunity, the know how, the resources, the time, the space to make those things happen? And so I think it's important when we look at the silent dangers is that the other thing that we're doing with this work is taking the individuality out of the blame. This isn't
Mm.
about the girls. They are
Right.
not the ones who are wrong. The system
Right.
has wronged our girls and, by extension, our boys. Therefore, our community and our
Mm.
families have been wronged by these systems. And it's not just in schools, but this is what we're talking about right now. This is where we're shining the light right now. And when you bring it all together, you see it, right? If we keep it separated, it doesn't seem as bad. But when you
Right.
build it, you know, and lay it all out, it's like, yo. So yeah, it'll make you angry. It'll make you sad. It'll make you feel some type of way about a lot of different things. And then what do
Right.
you do with it? And so I am an academician. What am I going to do? Continue to build the academic space. I'm going to continue to put out words. I'm going to continue to educate scholars. I'm going to continue to open doors for young people coming behind me, because that is my role in this movement. But everybody
Right.
has a role and everybody's role looks different. And we all have to take up the space that we're supposed to be in to keep moving this agenda forward.
Right. And along that lines, you just helped me see something else about my brand in working with change maker service-based businesses. They are typically the businesses that are LPCs, the nonprofits that are working with Black children, that are working with marginalized communities, that are working with single, usually Black mothers. I had 7 people unsubscribe from my email community when I sent out the first message about National Black Girl Month this year. And I was cool with that, but I knew that they couldn't face the truth in what that message said, which was that your economy, the economy, is heavily reliant on Black women.
Mm-hmm.
There's like something like 60+% of Black women who hold the purchasing power in homes. And a ton of those Black women are single heads of household, but even in dual households, they also hold the purchasing power. And some people I know, just weren't comfortable with that truth. And I think, Dr. Rikesha, that you just the next question that I was going to pose was, since National Black Girl Month this year, 2025, is focused on motherhood, you as a mother, me as someone who mothers in other ways, you've just explained why that conversation is necessary right now. And I'm also reflecting back on episode 48 with Deanna Washington. She's the kept wife strategist, and she specifically is talking about being a wife and being kept, yes, but what that brings back to the Black community and what that brings back to building the sense of village that we once had. And as
Mhm.
you said, as the system has destroyed or attempted to destroy. But one of the things that she said that will forever stay with me, she mentioned how, and I, again, it wasn't the first time, but I just again love that this conversation is happening in multiple spaces. The Black woman is always supposed to fix it. She's always supposed to carry the load. She's always supposed to bear the burden. She's always supposed to turn her cheek. And she was like, well, I'm here to tell her that she doesn't have to do that, that she can be well taken care of, that the husband can do what the husband needs to do because that's what he was built to do. And then, here we are. But now, there's a weight to this work, and we've hinted on it a little bit, but there's something else. So, what excites you about the future of the work that we're doing?
The excitement that I find in this work is the freedom to celebrate, the freedom to own, acknowledge, and live in our space, our power, our skin, um, on a daily basis. I think that the tactic of the hour right now is fear. And so to overcome fear, we have to use joy. And so empowering Black women, empowering ourselves, empowering myself to not cower or kowtow to fear, but to
Mhm.
stand boldly as the woman that I am. That in doing so, I am not only giving myself permission to live freely, but other people will see that and they are then given permission to live freely as well. So that's what I'm excited about. And that was probably a little heady of an answer, but that's my answer right now.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. I'm excited that we get to reach more people. We reached people last year. I am hoping that this movement spreads like wildfire, the good kind.
Mhm.
We have some exciting guests that will be a part of the conversations. I really can't wait to dig into some of these topics and to hear the perspectives. We've got someone leading our community this year in the online social media space. And, we're talking to some women who are motherless. We're talking to some women who were mothers at a very young age and may feel like, I don't know what I'm doing and I don't have a support system. And we're also talking to the women who are like, Deanna Washington, who's a kept wife, and, is like, no, where are my other sisters? And what do you need? Because I got you.
Mhm.
And I feel that this space is so diverse, not just from our complexions, but as you said, our lived experiences, our education, our backgrounds, and what we bring to this space as a collective. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, this is going to be good. It's going to be good. I think we don't want people to be turned off by the discussion of motherhood because everyone fits into the discussion of motherhood. We've all
Right.
been impacted in some way, good or bad, by mothers. We all have a mother, whether we have a relationship with our mother or not. That is how we got here, right? And then
Right.
we have been nurtured in some way by a woman at some point in our lives. And so, um, and then do that work some kind of way. I think
Right.
if you can look at it objectively, everyone operates in the space of mothering at some point in life. And so it becomes a a tool and a discussion. And so more than that, National Black Girl Month is about awareness and it's about action, it's about healing, it's about transformation. And so while this will not be a therapeutic space, we do encourage you to go to therapy if you need to go to therapy, and everybody needs to go. This will not necessarily be a therapeutic space, but we are taking a different approach. So let's talk a little bit about what's different this year.
One of the things that I'm excited about, well, we'll have a new toolkit. So last year's toolkit was robust. One of the things that's different is that we're going to have 1 to 2 conversations per week. But this year, we've got at least 6 guests that Dr. Rikesha and I will be interviewing. We'll be talking about different topics on motherhood. I cannot wait to introduce everyone to the guest. I won't name drop right now because we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Some of the activities that will be happening, live conversations, just a space to process. And then one of the topics that some of the speakers have been really excited about, we're going to talk about the Superwoman syndrome and what that means.
Absolutely.
And I will tell y'all, Dr. Akisha keeps me in check all the time. Sit down, lay down, go to bed, get off your get off of your computer. And I try to oblige.
No, she
Uh,
doesn't.
I try, I really do. And we're really, again, excited about reaching more people and connecting with more people. We've had a ton of support in the online space, and we're really wanting this to move in your home, in your community, in your church, in your networking group, and really owning this as a moment where there's so much fear and confusion and chaos.
Right,
Here's a safe space.
right. Because we're going to continue to prosper and live and be here in spite of, which is what we've done for generations and eons and centuries. And so, despite the challenges that we face right now, Black womanhood is amazing. You know, there's
Absolutely.
nothing better than being a Black woman. So let's live it. Let's live it. Is it tough? Absolutely, but no one else was built for it but a Black woman. So here we are making it
Here
happen.
we
And
are.
it doesn't mean that we don't face challenges. It doesn't mean that we um, don't have, trials, tribulations, fears, but it does mean that we have faced every single one of these things and overcome them or are continuing to overcome them, and we have not been conquered. And that being the case, this year's lineup is just such a dynamic group, and they've talked about a lot of things. We do talk about the Superwoman syndrome, and some of the other conversations that have come up are about overcoming, are about resilience, and not wearing resilience as or struggle as a badge of honor. But the fact of the matter is that we have the ability to overcome. We shouldn't always have to struggle. Everything shouldn't be a struggle. I hate the struggle Olympics where, it was hard for me. Well, it was harder for me. We don't have to do that. It's been hard for everybody, and your heart might be different from my heart, but my heart was hard for me just like your heart was hard for you. I don't have
Right.
to compare whether your heart was harder than mine or my heart was harder than yours. We've all had hard situations that have gone, and these conversations and the keys to these conversations are really about how we come together to support one another in the space of celebrating Black womanhood, celebrating our sisterhood and our sisters as we move forward. So let me ask you a question. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm
What
ready.
is one thing that you hope every Black woman listening to this episode will take away from the experience of National Black Girl Month and the podcast that we have coming out, the episodes for this month?
Hmm. That she is seen. She is heard.
Mhm.
She is not alone. She belongs. That no matter, even if she's experienced negative experiences with other Black women who may not have known better, that there are those of us who are standing with open arms to say, come in, welcome.
Welcome. Come on, sit down right over here with us.
Right?
Right here with
Right?
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. And the other thing would be that she doesn't have to do this by herself.
hmm hmm I think that one of the unintended consequences, and by consequence, I'm not meaning negative consequence, but positive
Mhm.
consequences of this work is the building of community. And if we can get back to community, that
Mhm.
that statement, you are not alone, is so real. But not only that you are not alone, but this is a space where you can be real about the things that you are needing, that you're experiencing, that you are loving and hating, right? That
Right.
we can be here in this space to not only celebrate but uplift and work through some of this stuff together, because it can be a lonely ride if you let it be. And it doesn't
Right.
have to be.
Right. Right. And weekly, Amira will be leading the community with live conversations in the Facebook group. So you will need to go to www.facebook.com/groups/National Black Girl Month. And please answer the questions, okay, in order to gain access
Gotta answer
to.
the group questions.
We want to make sure that it is a safe space, that it is not a promotional space. We're not there to just promote businesses. If you are interested in being a part of the movement, you can go to silentdangers.com/join-the-movement, or just go to silentdangers.com and just click on the menu and you'll find it. But there are ways that you certainly can be a part of what we're doing and reaching and serving our community. So as we step into this month, know that you belong here, whether you are a mother, a daughter, an advocate, or a woman navigating what it means to take up space, you belong. And the conversations we're about to have, they are for you. I just shared some of my experiences of doing this work. And that's another part of this is that, Dr. Rikesha said, we're human. We're Black women. We're doing this. We're navigating it. She's a mother. I'm an auntie. Life is still lifing.
Right.
As we're walking.
Every day.
But we're grateful for the grace that we have to still show up in this space and to still, offer this light and this opportunity for those of you who would like to join us.
Absolutely. And we would love to have you if you are looking forward to joining us. Please, please, please do know that you are welcome in this space. Next week, we continue this conversation on motherhood, identity, and legacy with Dr. Rosemarie Allen, a dynamic national leader in equity in education. And as we explore Black motherhood and how it has evolved across generations, it is going to be an amazing conversation. You do not want to miss it. She's phenomenal.
You really don't. We look forward to meeting all of you. Thank you.
The best leaders know that strategy happens in real time, in the right room, with the right people. That's why I created Momentum Lab, where creatives and changemakers meet weekly to break down challenges, refine their strategies, and move forward with momentum. If you're ready to sharpen your next move, join us at lab.FeliciaFordandCo.com.
Hey, Changemaker, real quick before you go, if today's episode helped you in some way, the best way to thank me is to head over to Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the channel, and leave a review. I'd also love to connect with you over on social. You can find me at Friends Call Me Fee. Until next time, keep changing the game.